The jellyfish tank cast blue-green shadows across my daughter's face as she looked up at me, her small hand still clutching my sleeve. "Mommy, is Emily's birthday party today?" The question hit like a physical blow. Around us, families moved through the aquarium's corridors, pointing at displays, laughing, completely unaware that my carefully constructed Saturday was collapsing. My husband Marcus went rigid beside me, his hand tightening on our son's shoulder. The ambient sound of the exhibit, that peaceful underwater ambiance, suddenly felt suffocating. "How did you know about that, sweetie?" I managed, my voice steadier than the chaos in my chest. "Grandma mentioned it yesterday when she called. She asked if I was excited about the party and what I was going to wear." She'd called Friday evening while I was making dinner, and I'd thought nothing of my mother's usual check-in with the kids. Of course, my mother had assumed we'd worked things out, or worse, hadn't cared that we hadn't. "My name is Rebecca. I'm 34 and a marketing consultant. This is the story of how I taught my family that some exclusions come with consequences. 3 weeks earlier, I'd been standing at my kitchen stove making dinner when my sister Sarah called. The kids were at the table with homework, Marcus still at his office wrapping up client meetings. Normal Tuesday evening, pasta sauce simmering, garlic bread timer counting down. "So Emily's turning 8 next month," Sarah had said, her voice bright with that particular excitement she got about event planning. "We're doing a big party at that new venue downtown. You know, the fancy one with the indoor playground and catering package." "That sounds amazing," I'd said, genuinely happy for my niece. "The kids will love it. They've been asking when Emily's birthday was." The pause on the line lasted just a beat too long. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that. We're keeping it small this year, just close family and Emily's school friends. You know how it is with venue capacity and catering minimums." I turned down the stove heat, my attention shifting completely. "Okay, what does that mean exactly?" "It means you and Marcus are obviously invited, but we're not really doing the cousin thing this year. Emily wants it to be more about her actual friends." The wooden spoon in my hand had suddenly felt very heavy. "You're not inviting my kids to their cousin's birthday party." "Don't make it sound like that. It's just, Emily's at that age where she wants it to be cooler. Having a bunch of little kids running around doesn't fit the vibe we're going for." My daughter was 6. My son was 4. They adored Emily, asked about her constantly, drew her pictures. "They're not a bunch of little kids. They're her cousins. They're family. And you and Marcus are family, which is why you're invited." Sarah's tone had shifted to defensive. "Look, I'm not trying to be mean. This is what Emily wants, and it's her special day." I'd taken a breath, trying to stay rational. "Have you told them yet? My kids. Have you told them they're not invited?" "I figured you would handle that. You're their mom." Something had crystallized in that moment, a clarity about exactly what this conversation meant. "I'm not doing this, Sarah. If you don't want my children at the party, then Marcus and I won't be there either." "Oh, come on, don't be dramatic. Mom and Dad will be so disappointed if you don't show up." "Then maybe you should have thought about that before excluding 2 children from a family event." "It's not a family event. It's Emily's birthday party. There's a difference." "Not to a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, there isn't." She'd sighed, that particular sound that meant she thought I was being unreasonable. "Fine. Do whatever you want. But don't blame me when Mom asks why you're being difficult." The call had ended. I told Marcus that night after the kids were asleep. He'd listened quietly, his jaw getting progressively tighter. "So we're not going," he'd said when I finished. "We're not going." Good. My mother had called 2 days later. "Sarah told me you're not coming to Emily's party. What's this about?" I'd explained the situation carefully, methodically. My mother had made sympathetic noises but ultimately landed exactly where I'd expected. "It's Sarah's choice how to handle her daughter's party. You can't force her to invite everyone." I'm not forcing anything. I'm choosing not to attend an event where my children are deliberately excluded. You're making this into a bigger issue than it needs to be. Just come to the party. The kids won't even notice. They'll notice when every other grandchild is there except them. You're being stubborn. I'm being a parent. The next 3 weeks had been tense. Sarah sent a group text with party details. I didn't respond. My brother asked if there was drama. I gave him the short version. He said he understood but was still bringing his kids, didn't want to make waves. Which brought us to this Saturday, this perfect sunny afternoon. This aquarium trip I'd planned as a special outing, complete with lunch at their favorite restaurant, hoping they'd never have to know about the party happening across town. But now my daughter was looking up at me with those trusting eyes, waiting for an answer about why we weren't going to her cousin's birthday. "Sweetie, it's today, but we're not going to that party," I said, kneeling to her level. "Why not? How do you explain adult cruelty to a 6-year-old? How do you tell your child that her aunt decided she wasn't important enough to include?" "Sometimes parties are just for certain people," I tried carefully. "This one is just for Emily's school friends." "But I'm her cousin. We're family." "I know, baby." Her eyes filled with tears. "Doesn't Aunt Sarah like us?" My son, picking up on his sister's distress, started crying too. Marcus picked him up, his expression darker than I'd seen in years. "Let's go home," he said quietly. The drive back was silent except for occasional sniffles from the back seat. Once we arrived home, I settled the kids with a movie and their favorite snacks, then went to find Marcus. He was in his office staring at his laptop with an expression I recognized from his most intense business negotiations. "What's going on?" I asked. He held up his phone. 15 missed calls, 3 from Sarah, 4 from your mother, the rest from your brother and various family members. "What? Why?" "I made a call," he said simply. "What kind of call?" "The kind that clarifies certain business relationships." I sat down slowly. "Marcus, what did you do?" He turned his laptop toward me. On the screen was an email chain with a header I recognized. Morrison Property Development, my brother-in-law's company. "Your sister's husband has been trying to secure a contract with Centennial Group for 6 months, Marcus said. Big commercial development project, would basically set their company up for the next 5 years. I knew this. Sarah had mentioned it constantly. How this deal would change everything, how they'd finally afford the house they wanted, the private school for Emily. What does that have to do with anything? Marcus looked at me steadily. I'm the majority shareholder of Centennial Group, have been for 3 years. My mouth fell open. What? It's under a different corporate structure. Most people don't make the connection between Marcus Chen and the Centennial portfolio companies. I prefer it that way for privacy reasons. You never told me. You never asked about my investment holdings, and frankly, it's boring conversation. He paused. But the point is, your brother-in-law has been negotiating with my acquisitions team for months. They were going to present the final contract to me next week for approval. We're going to? I called the team an hour ago, told them to kill the deal. I stared at him. You killed a multi-million-dollar contract because Sarah didn't invite our kids to a birthday party? No. His voice was calm but absolute. I killed a multi-million-dollar contract because Sarah made our children cry, because she told them they weren't important enough. There's a difference. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. Why is Marcus torpedoing Mark's deal? What the hell is going on? Then my mother. Your husband is destroying your sister's family financially over a party invitation. Call me now. Then my brother. Dude, this is insane. Call off your husband. Marcus's phone kept buzzing. He declined every call. They don't know it's you, I said slowly. They don't know you control Centennial. They do now. I told my team to inform Mark's company exactly why the deal was being terminated, that the chairman personally declined to move forward with a partner who demonstrates poor values regarding family. Before I could respond, my phone rang. "Sarah," I answered. "What the hell is your husband doing?" she screamed. "Mark just got a call from Centennial Group saying the deal is dead because of family values concerns, and that the decision came directly from the chairman. Do you know what this means for us?" I know exactly what it means. This is insane. Over a birthday party? You're going to destroy our financial stability because Emily didn't want a bunch of toddlers at her party. They're not toddlers. They're your niece and nephew. They're 6 and 4 years old, and they cried today because they couldn't understand why their aunt doesn't think they're important enough. This is not proportional. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost revenue. And you're talking about 2 children who were deliberately excluded from a family event. Tell me which one matters more. I cannot believe you're being this petty. I'm not being petty. My husband is making a business decision. He doesn't want to partner with people who demonstrate cruelty to children. It's actually a pretty reasonable position. You planned this. You knew he could do this, and you used it as leverage. I had no idea Marcus controlled Centennial until an hour ago. But yes, he did this deliberately. And honestly, I'm not sorry. Mom is furious. Dad is furious. Everyone thinks you've lost your mind. Everyone was fine with you telling 2 children they weren't important enough. So forgive me if I don't particularly care what everyone thinks. You're going to regret this. The only thing I regret is not standing up for my kids sooner. She hung up. Over the next 2 days, the family group chat exploded. My parents demanded we fix this. My brother tried to mediate. Various aunts and uncles weighed in with their opinions on proportional responses and family unity. Marcus ignored all of it. He was in back-to-back meetings restructuring portfolio companies. When he had free time, he played with the kids, building elaborate pillow forts and having Nerf gun battles like nothing was happening. I handled the family communications with a simple message. We're available to discuss this when Sarah is ready to apologize to our children, not before. On Monday evening, Sarah showed up at our door. No Mark, no Emily, just her, looking exhausted and smaller than I'd seen her in years. "Can we talk?" I let her in. We sat in the living room. She looked around like she was seeing it for the first time. The family photos on the walls, the kids' artwork on the fridge, the toy bin in the corner. "I didn't realize Marcus was that successful," she said finally. "Does it matter?" "It matters that I underestimated the consequences." She paused. "That's not what I meant. That came out wrong." "Then what did you mean?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I was wrong. Not because of the money. I was wrong before that." She looked up, eyes red. "I told Mark that Emily didn't want little kids at her party. But that wasn't true. Emily never said that. I said it." "Why?" "Because I was jealous." The words came out in a rush. "Your kids are adorable. Everyone always comments on how sweet they are, how well behaved. And Emily's been going through a difficult phase. Tantrums, attitude problems. I felt like everyone was always comparing them, and mine was coming up short." "So you excluded them?" "I thought it would be easier. One event where Emily could shine without comparison." She wiped her eyes. "But I didn't think about what it would do to them. I didn't think about how they'd feel." "You need to apologize to them," I said quietly. "Not to me. To them." "I know. I will, if you'll let me." "That's up to them." She nodded. "And the business deal, that's up to Marcus?" "Yes. But I'll tell you right now, he doesn't change his mind easily once someone crosses a line with our family." "I understand." The next afternoon, Sarah came back to our house with Emily. Sarah did apologize to the kids the next day. She brought Emily over, and they did it together. Emily gave them handmade cards inviting them to a special do-over party, just cousins. My kids forgave her immediately, the way children do, their hurt evaporating in the face of genuine remorse and promised cake. Marcus didn't reinstate the deal. He explained to me later that it wasn't about punishment. It was about principle. He didn't build relationships with people who demonstrated that kind of judgment. There were other contractors, other development companies. Business continued. Mark's company survived. They found other projects, smaller ones. They're doing fine, if not thriving the way they'd hoped. Sarah went back to work part-time to help with finances. They postponed the house upgrade and kept Emily in public school. Mark eventually reached out to Marcus directly, not to ask for the deal back, but to acknowledge he understood why it had been withdrawn and that he should have stood up to Sarah about excluding the kids in the first place. The relationship between Sarah and me is still healing. It's been 4 months now. We're cordial at family gatherings, even friendly, but there's a distance that wasn't there before. A recognition that some lines, once crossed, reshape everything. My parents eventually came around. Dad said he understood Marcus's position, even if he wished it had been handled differently. Mom still thinks the whole thing was an overreaction, but she stopped saying so at family dinners after Marcus quietly reminded her that we could host holidays at our house instead, if she preferred. My brother, after seeing how things played out, admitted privately that he respected our boundary, even though he'd initially thought we were being too harsh. The kids don't remember most of it. They had their cousin party. They got cake and presents and time with Emily. That's what mattered to them. These days, Emily comes over regularly for play dates, and the 3 of them are as close as they ever were. But I remember the tears at the aquarium, the confusion on their faces when they couldn't understand why they were excluded. And I'm grateful I married a man who, when faced with that choice, chose our children's dignity over business relationships every single time. Some people think Marcus overreacted, that destroying a business deal over a party invitation was extreme. But those people didn't see our daughter's face when she asked if her aunt didn't like her anymore. They didn't hear our son crying in the back seat, and they don't understand that sometimes the most important thing you can teach your children is that they matter, that their feelings are valid, that when someone treats them as less than, there are consequences. Marcus taught them that lesson, and honestly, it's the most valuable thing anyone could have done for them. Because here's what I learned through all of this. Standing up for your children isn't about being petty or vindictive. It's about showing them that their worth isn't negotiable, that family means something, or it means nothing at all, and that the people who truly love them will always choose their dignity over convenience, their feelings over politeness, their tears over keeping the peace. My sister learned something too, though it cost her more than she expected. She learned that actions have consequences, that excluding children from family isn't a neutral choice, and that some people will actually follow through when they say they won't tolerate it. But mostly, she learned what I've always known, that protecting your children isn't an overreaction. It's the baseline. It's the minimum. And anyone who thinks otherwise probably shouldn't be surprised when their business deals fall through. If you've ever been in a situation where you had to choose between keeping the peace and standing up for someone you love, you know how hard that choice can be. The pressure to smooth things over, to not make waves, to let it go, it's enormous. But I promise you this, your children will remember who stood up for them. They'll remember who made them feel like they mattered. And years from now, they won't care about the family drama or the business deals or who was right and who was wrong. They'll just remember that when it mattered, you chose them.